Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Listen, I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, I got a little bit of a head cold coming on tonight. Feel it in behind my nose and everything. That itchy, scratchy feeling. Don't feel real good. feel a little bit like I got a fever. I don't know. I hate these things. I don't get them very often, but tonight I'm getting it. Anyway, I want to talk about something. I want to talk about this whole impeachment thing, and then later I'm going to talk about the financial calamity that's brewing, right? And the reason why I'm linking these two subjects together is they actually need to be linked together. First off, it's all in the news everywhere about this whole impeachment thing. The thing is it's a polarizing issue. It's a topic I haven't touched upon it that much on my show because it's a very polarizing, very contentious issue. You have America basically divided amongst this issue between the left and right wing. You got probably, I'm going to just estimate it, I'm going to say there's about 30% of the people out there who are really diehard. They want to see Trump out of there. You have about another 30% of the people who are very loyal, and the rest, they're basically sitting on the fence and waiting and seeing what's going to happen. They don't really have that much of an opinion. They're not that deep into politics. They're not so. But it's very polarizing because these two groups, are completely on opposite sides of the spectrum about this issue. So, getting down to the nitty-gritty of what's really going on, let's open up the charts. Oh, first I gotta get the charts going. Just give me a second. Okay, let's open up the charts right here and take a look at the Los Angeles Times. This says a lot about the nitty-gritty of all this. Now, this whole thing is going to head toward the House. And, it could go through the House. It could pass through the House because the House has got a lot of Democrats. But then it's going to have to go through the Senate after that. Well, let's look at what the Los Angeles Times has to say here. It says, nobody wants to be talking about this. A former executive director of the GOP Senate campaign arm. It's a headache. But call me skeptical that the Democrats are going to maximize the opportunity. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky has said under Senate rules, he would have no choice but to bring impeachment articles to the Senate floor if they are approved by the House. That means that Senate Republicans will have to cast a vote on whether Trump's conduct passes the mustard. Impeachment has the potential to put the squeeze on vulnerable Republicans. It could be a high-profile vote in support or against the president, said Nathan Gonzalez, editor of nonpartisan Inside Election Newsletter. Most Republicans worry about losing Trump's support. They worry more about that than they do about carving out an independent image. Get what he's saying here? It says the impeachment debate provides the latest illustration of just how much Trump has tightened his grip on the Republican Party. With details emerging daily about Trump's effort to recruit foreign leaders for his domestic political purposes, some Republicans are echoing White House talking points in his defense, saying he did nothing improper. Others are keeping mum. Precious few are daring to criticize his behavior. Now, that's basically what you're looking at in the Senate. So this thing, in order for it to really amount to something big, it has to get through the Senate. And listen to what it says about the senators here, Republican senators. It says, precious few are daring to criticize his behavior. Now, you remember I said it's different this time. It's different in many ways. I can think of about 3 ways, big, important ways, that this whole thing could backfire. Quite seriously. So, the Democrats, if they want to get somebody in the White House this next term, there are a few things that are really important that are spots that could really hurt Trump in his bid for the White House. And one of the things that could really hurt him is the economy. The second thing is, if they want to keep Trump from getting in the White House on this next election cycle, they better come up with a good candidate to run against him that can actually beat him. Now, this impeachment stuff that's going on now, is going to play itself through. And it's probably going to go through the House, and then it's going to go to the Senate. Well, I think that by the time we get to the next election cycle and the time comes to vote and everything else, this is going to be old news. I think it's going to be old news by then. So they better be looking to try to find somebody that can actually beat Trump. That can actually win and actually beat him. So here's the thing. I'm going to turn the charts off right here and I want to talk about something really important. We're heading toward an economic crisis. Liquidity's drying up in parts of the system. A whole bunch of bubbles have formed because they had interest rates so low for so long. If all of this were to burst, all of these bubbles were to burst, and if the liquidity were to dry up in the system, and if we were to go into what an awful lot of economists have been saying is coming, which is basically a financial collapse, deflationary, like a Great Depression sort of a financial collapse, where the system would start to melt down, and things would be sold, and the dollar would start to go up in value massively. The way things are set up now, there's so much debt involved here, and there's so many derivatives products, and there's so much malinvestment, and the system has been pumped up with so much over leverage and debt creation that if it were to be allowed to actually try to go back to fair market values, for the markets to find fair market value, and for everything to actually clear out all of this refuse in the system, what would actually happen is an event would happen that nobody would ever want to see. And I'll try to explain to you what it would be like. Everything in the system runs on money. Everything would freeze if that were to happen. And of course, this system is built on a structure like Humpty Dumpty. If it falls down that breaks, completely breaks, then who's out there to get it back running again? If the system were to entirely break, the derivatives were to all melt down, everybody would be out trying to get what's theirs out of and because this is what it's all about when counterparty risk is all about. The big boys would want to get as much money out as they could. Everybody would be interested in themselves and trying to get as much money out of the system as it was collapsing, and the liquidity would just disappear. I mean, disappear so quickly if they let it all collapse that way into a deflationary spiral where nobody would have any money. The money would just all disappear. And the derivatives would all just basically implode. Everything would implode. And the system would lock up and nobody would be able to unlock it. And because it would be the entire world's financial system, everything would come to a stop. In every country on earth. And this would have the potential, it would be worse than anything we've ever experienced, ever. Nothing like it. They can't let that happen. Because why they can't let that happen is because it would, if everything melted down and come to a complete stop, there would be, after a week or two went by, there would be nobody in charge. They would instantaneously all lose power. See, they hold power right now, and how they hold power is through the monetary system, through controlling dollars and where dollars go and everything. And they have to have order in order to maintain that control. But if order was lost in the entire world because the entire financial system completely melted down and basically stopped, and nobody could get it going again, the world would descend into chaos. And in that chaos, all the people who are in power now would not be in power anymore. In fact, there wouldn't be any power, lights, or electricity even. I don't know. This is why they can't allow this to happen. And there's only actually one way to stop it at this point, because they've inflated the system and inflated the system and inflated the system to the point where it wants to deflate. If you will, picture a balloon, and they keep pumping air into it, and it gets bigger and bigger. It wants to pop. That's what's happening. Eventually, it's going to pop. But it's very stretchy. And they're going to be able to blow more air into it. And that's exactly what they're going to do. But by blowing more and more air into it, what they're doing is they're inflating the dollars away. They're inflating away the value of the dollars. There's a trip point here that they hit. There's a line in the sand that when they cross it, the people of Earth start to lose confidence in the purchasing power of the dollars. That's when we shift in the opposite direction. Instead of shifting toward deflation then at that point, which right now, if they stop pumping this balloon full of money, if they were to stop injecting money into this balloon, we would deflate very rapidly. The whole thing would deflate very rapidly, and we'd descend toward this chaos I was talking about, where everything would just basically melt down and stop. Because they can't allow that, they're going to have to keep pumping money into this whole thing. What's going to happen is we're going to go past a certain line in the sand after a while. And that's when people start to lose confidence because they see that their purchasing power is diminishing. And it's no good holding savings anymore. And that is something that happens that has nothing so much to do with the financial system. It has everything to do with people's confidence. Confidence in the fiat currencies. We're going to hit that point because they're going to have to keep inflating this until we hit that point. I believe that point is a ways out yet. So what we're going to see is we're going to see them consistently going into new programs and new ways to feed money into the system. Quantitative easing 4, the repo market. Who knows what's next? Who knows what they'll come up with to pump money into the system? But they're going to keep pumping money into the system. And what that's going to yield, it could yield Dow Jones 30,000. But at a certain point, we're going to cross that line in the sand. People are going to lose confidence in the purchasing power. And then this whole thing is going to disintegrate rather rapidly from that point into a hyperinflation. And what that basically means is your dollar is going to start to lose value so fast. This is what's going to make the alternatives to the dollar go up in value immensely. Now, in order to get that confidence back in the fiat currencies, I know what they're going to do. They're going to try a reset. They're going to try to move over to a new digital currency, a representation of the dollar. They'll probably call it the dollar, or they might call it Fed coin, or gosh knows what they'll call it. More than likely, they'll call it the dollar. And you'll transfer over into this new digital fiat currency. When they first do that, it's not going to work. It's going to start losing value because people are not stupid. They're going to realize that this is just a new version of what they already had. It'll maintain value for a little while, but it'll start to depreciate very rapidly as well because it's connected into the same sort of system that we're running now. So it's not going to work. They're going to have to back the new currency with something of value. One thing comes to mind: gold. You know, and this means because to create enough currency units to satisfy demands, the demand for the dollar, they're going to have to reprice gold in this new currency unit. So basically what I think is going to happen is we're going to go over to a gold standard again. I know Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, but it's a huge mistake. And I think that we're going to backtrack on that mistake, and we're going to end up going back. We're not going to go back willingly. They're not going to go back willingly. They've called gold a barbarous relic from the past. They're going to go back, but they're going to go back kicking and screaming, but they're going to go back. And so I can see a time coming in the future where the two main things of value in this world are going to be the premium cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin, and gold. And I can see a time coming when these two things are going to be transferable. So you're going to be able to move gold across the internet using cryptocurrency. It's going to be a way of Bitcoin is basically going to have a loose peg to gold, something similar to the way the dollar for years had a loose peg to oil. You know, of course, they've been breaking that peg to oil by purchasing oil in other things other than dollars. And so there's been an erosion of the petrodollar, and that's part of this whole problem, is the erosion of the petrodollar. Listen, thank you guys for listening to this weekend show. And I hope this cold doesn't last very long. And I hope I'm over it by Monday or Tuesday. And we'll catch you guys very soon again. And give me a thumbs up, guys. Bye-bye.